Hey everyone, Vincenzo Calla here, and welcome to episode 37 of Top 10. Today, I'm glad to be joined by the Mayor of Ottawa, Mark Sutcliffe. Thanks, Mark, for joining me.
It's my pleasure, Vincenzo. Thanks for the opportunity.
So let's get right into these fun and simple questions. So first off, what's your favorite color?
I guess I would say my favorite, I mean, it's not something I think about a lot, to be honest. I was asked this question during the campaign and I think I said blue. But I'm going to say purple because I noticed I have a lot of purple ties that I've been wearing lately. Now that I wear a tie every day, I didn't used to. And the other thing I would say is I remember Naheed Nenshi, the former mayor of Calgary, talking about how he built a purple coalition, a coalition of conservatives and liberals, and that if you blend red and blue together, you get purple. So I think I did something similar during last year's election. So I'm going to go with purple.
Definitely. So question two, what's your favorite book?
This is a tough one. When I saw the list of questions, I struggled with this one because I've read a lot of books and there are many that I enjoy, and of course there are many different categories of book: nonfiction, fiction. Even within those categories, you could subdivide even further. But I'm going to say, if you don't mind, I'll say one of each. So the book that probably had the greatest impact on me was a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, which I read when I was probably in my early to mid 20s. And it really changed the way I thought about a lot of things. And it changed me into probably somebody who was ready to take more accountability for the decisions I was making in my life and the impact I was having on others. So that's a book that had an impact on me at a particular time in my life. And the fiction book that I would say probably is my favorite is Les Miserables, which is the book by Victor Hugo, which of course inspired the musical. And there's just something about that story that really touched me, and that I still think about all the time. So, among many choices, those are the two I would mention.
And question three is what is your favorite movie?
That's a tough one too, because there are so many, and I would say, probably there's a couple of classics that I would point to: Casablanca, Citizen Kane. But one of my favorite movies is Back to the Future, the original Back to the Future. I don't know, it just always sort of struck a chord with me, and I really like Michael J. Fox, and I love the story, and I thought it was also very funny. So that's definitely on my list as well.
It's such a fun movie to watch. Question four now, what's your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show is Breaking Bad. I just think it's an incredibly well written show. It's different from almost any other television program. And I found it just so authentic, the way you see Walter White, the main character in the show, the evolution that he goes through over the course of the many episodes and seasons. I just thought it was very powerful. And my wife and I binge watched that show. So we didn't jump on board the bandwagon of Breaking Bad until right before the final episode aired. So it meant that we were able to watch, without there are shows we watch now like Succession where we're just desperately waiting for the next season to come out. And you have these intervals where you're not able to watch the show. Whereas Breaking Bad, we basically watched episode one, and over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks, watched the entire show from beginning to end. And so we absorbed it. And it was when our kids were really young, so we weren't going out a lot. We'd put our kids to bed, and then we'd watch a couple of episodes of Breaking Bad. So it was a really fun experience.
Well, that's always a fun thing about watching I guess not older show, but a show that's been out already. You get to
Yeah,
watch the whole thing in a sitting and you don't have to wait a year and a half for seasons, especially with COVID. There's a lot of my favorite shows I've had to wait a long time to watch, and they're just starting to
exactly.
come out now. So,
Yeah.
so that's lots of fun. Question five now, what's your favorite meal?
Oh, good question. So probably my favorite meal would include some. some Brussels sprouts, some roasted Brussels sprouts, maybe some falafel, maybe some naan bread, and some hummus. All of those kinds of things would probably fit together in my favorite meal. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's sort of a go-to meal for me. Generally that would, if we were going out for a meal or we were making something at home, that's probably be something like that. Lots of veggies, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, some naan bread, and some falafel. I really like falafel.
Question 6, what's your favorite dessert?
This is probably the toughest question you've asked me, Vincenzo, because I have a real sweet tooth and I would eat dessert all day long if I could. So it's definitely something with lemon in it. So I'll probably say, lemon cheesecake or something like that. I'm also pretty partial to the apple fritters at Maverick Donuts.
There's a new Maverick Donuts in Barhaven where I live. I haven't been yet, but I'm really excited to go try it out one day.
Yeah.
Question 7, what's your favorite hobby?
I guess you could say my favorite hobby is running, if you count that as a hobby as
Yeah.
opposed to an activity. So I run a lot. I run every single day. I've run a bunch of marathons. I also like doing the New York Times crossword puzzle, so I do that every day as well. So those would probably be the two.
Question 8 now, what's a vacation that you've always wanted to take?
There are a couple. I'd love to take my kids to the Grand Canyon. My wife and I went there about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was just spectacular, unbelievable. And so we'd love to go back with our kids. And I would also very much like to go to Africa. I've been to South America. I've been all over North America and Central America and Europe, but I've never been to Africa. And I'd really like to have that experience.
Question 9 is what is something that you've always wanted to do?
Um, I guess my answer would be the London Marathon. So again, I'm a runner. I've run a number of marathons, including some of what are called the World Marathon Majors. So the New York, Boston, and Chicago marathons. I've run all of those, and they're all considered among the World Marathon Majors. And the other three are the Berlin Marathon, which I'm hoping to do soon, the Tokyo Marathon, and the London Marathon. And my dad is from England, and I still have lots of family there, and I really love the city of London. So I'd really like to do the London Marathon someday.
And question 10 is the question that I always like to end with, which is what is one piece of life advice that you would like to share?
One of the biggest lessons I learned, and it took me a long time to learn it, is that everybody has a reason. And so we have a tendency to judge other people, and it's part of our nature, I guess, that we encounter someone and they're behaving differently, perhaps from how we would expect them to, or how we think we would behave in their circumstances. But I remember reading something or hearing something on a podcast about how everybody behaves in a way that's logical to them based on their life experience and the information they have available to them at that moment. And so it may seem irrational or illogical to you from your perspective, but based on where they're at in their life and what they've been through and what they're experiencing in the moment, the emotions they may be feeling, it's perfectly logical to them at that time. And so I remember hearing an interview with one of the writers and actors from Ted Lasso, which is another of my favorite shows, talking about how everybody on that show has a reason. So you meet a character and at first they seem unpleasant or unlikable. And what that show is so good at is they start to explain the backstory of that character, and then you empathize and you understand and you gain knowledge of why they might be the way they are. And I try to remind myself of that all the time, that everybody has a reason, and it's important to listen and understand and gain knowledge of why a person is behaving in a way that you may not think is logical, but it makes perfect sense to them.
So that is all for today. Thank you, Mark, so much for joining me.
It's been my pleasure, Vincenzo. Thank you.
So it was so great having you. And if you like this interview, make sure to go check out my other interview with Mark on YouTube for Let's Discuss Politics. To stay updated, make sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and here on Instagram at VC Productions 25. Check out my website, vincenzocalla.com, and make sure to like and share this video. Make sure to also subscribe to my YouTube channel. The link is in my bio. Top 10 is a VCalla production. So until the next video, I'm Vincenzo Calla, signing out.